So the next trend we're going to talk about is unified communications, which a lot of people are kind of tiptoeing around, or they're looking at when their PBX system changes, if they're ready to do this. But at the end of the day, this is about when I was in the military and led projects there, we used to call it stovepipe systems. A lot of what we do right now, typically any small, medium-sized, and quite often enterprise, there's different, you go to your desktop for emails. Sometimes you have it on your BlackBerry or iPhone. You typically have separate, phone devices, and you have like mobile phone devices. You have like a web conferencing system that's separate. You have voicemail that's separate oftentimes. And so the whole point is trying to, the big vendors like IBM is spending a ton on this, Microsoft's really behind this, is trying to vertically integrate these communication silos, which we write here. It's about bringing them all under one roof. So there's a couple different benefits from this. You can look at it that really it's about business efficiency again, right person, right time, the presence example I have here on left. And so, I don't know how many of you have worked in large organizations, but, there's always this challenge of, like, I've been a project manager or a consultant at, a Fortune 500 company, and you got to get something done. And the guy who has to approve it, of course, is, in meetings or, out. But you got to get something done, so you have to find how to reach that person. So the presence, can allow people to really find out quickly when someone's available to get something done. It can improve the workflow. It can improve the communications. I mean, there's billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars lost every year in inefficient communications. So anything we can do to even, take a whack at that, that's what really, I think, one of the biggest benefits of this is how do we get to that right person at the right time? And then streamline the communications. I think the next slide I have talks about, this is just about simplifying communications for people. If you think about how easy it is, you can track everything. Like email, you can kind of see everything that's going on. Sometimes it's harder than not to search through it. Some people have better searching tools than not. But being able to integrate video conversations, different telephonic communications, different email communications, all your communications one place that you can search, now that's really powerful. And that's really where, at the end of the day, this gets more and more interesting. And even further with, a lot of you probably work with end users that have line of business applications. So anything where we can help introduce that presence associated with that improves how those line of business communications people can execute. Then, at the end of the day, too, it follows up upon enhancing collaboration and conferencing. How can we help people collaborate better with each other? That's what unified communications brings as well. It's kind of married. A lot of these trends are integrated with each other, but it marries it with the documentation and collaboration sharing with documents. So as IT people or technology people, we have to care about how do we improve the business side of technology as well. So, really I think what makes this a great ROI play and what we've worked with other customers on is where you see you can take these different separate stovepipe systems or separate non-integrated systems and bring them all into one umbrella. That's why IBM and Microsoft are investing so much in this, because typically you're using one vendor to do online meetings often, you're using another vendor for voicemail, you could be using another vendor for email communications. So if they can get that integrated all into one umbrella, typically you're going to get some type of increased cost savings from that. If nothing else, right, instead of maintaining 5 different things, you can maintain one kind of integrated system. And that's where really there's a cost savings component, plus the single identity for, of course, the single sign-on for all those elements versus like, oh, I got to memorize a password for this. We know how much pain and trouble that can be. So that was the first 5 we went through. I'm going to move now right into the next 5 because we are running out of time here, so I'll go pretty quickly. So I'm going to just go into them individually. So Web 2.0 to 3.0, I mean, first of all, most people probably don't even have an idea what Web 2.0 is, but I could call this the continuous evolution of Internet technologies. So think about how the web is now. Think about how it was in the 90s if you've been around that long on the web. And, back when I think I initially got on the web in 94 or 95 when I was in the military running projects there. And it was just completely static information. In fact, I remember in the early days they actually used to charge for searches. There was InfoSeek, and I used to laugh because I said, oh, there's these 2 guys at Stanford that have this directory, and you can search off that. Why would we ever pay for searches? And, well, everything evolved more into pay-for-performance search for the advertisers. But think about how that's evolved from static to we're going to see much more interactivity. I mean, we're going to kind of see the merger of the television and the web. I mean, you already see it now. I mean, think about how popular YouTube has become, or even new things like Twitter, where it's just become a really more interactive platform. And that's why, Microsoft invested more in Silverlight as well. I mean, they're looking for ways that you can create two-way communications platform through much more interactivity. And I look at it as well, like this other bullet here, it's transforming that web into what I consider kind of a database in a way, like taking a lot more of that data that was static and you're making it more interactive. So, and a lot of you have been around for a while, there's always been kind of the web services. But what we see demand for, especially for our business, is we've done a lot of bots or crawlers, and there's we're going to see a lot of these web services actually begin to interact with each other, kind of like the promise of, I think we were building them in like 2000, and they're pretty awkward at first, but they've come a long way, and they've matured probably, since 2005, they've been pretty mature, and we're going to see a lot more where you can easily now, if you want to integrate with a lot of these, Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, the APIs have become much more easy, especially with the REST interfaces, and we'll see much more of that. Though, where I think we'll see kind of bots and artificial intelligence start to take off more. So, again, like I think some of you joined late. Why do we care about these trends? Well, this one we care. I mean, think about how much the world has changed related to the web. I mean, Google didn't exist 11 years ago. Now it's, a multi-billion-dollar company. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities out there, both for, your business. If you don't engage with these technologies and understand how they impact you, I guarantee you at some point, unless you have something that keeps customers stuck or some type of differentiation, you're going to be taken out by similar competitors in the field. So you got to look at how is these tools going to change the interaction with customers. Again, Amazon didn't exist 15 years ago, and now it's one of the largest retailers or facilitating retail. So how do you practically apply this too? From a marketing side, you can look at Silverlight, you can look at these web services. How can you think about engaging customers? How can you use Web 2.0, Web 3.0? How can you create this interactivity, kind of like the Idea Storm as well, with CRM 2.0? These things overlap. How do you create that so that your customers can engage more? You can understand them better? Another thing that we've seen a lot with is start to think about how, this doesn't apply for all you, but especially people that have consumer type basic things are, how can you use web data, because there's more of it out there, to do data crawling, to do competitive intelligence, to do aggregation of content. And then, if your type of business applies, look at creating, interactions with Facebook or Twitter or some of these other popular social networking sites, something where you can interact and create that dynamic experience.